Today we will discuss communication and decision making topic. What is the definition of communication? So communication is an interpersonal process of sending and receiving symbols with messages attached to them. Okay, so this communication basically defines a business process. Okay, if you are talking this communication from a business point of view, business process. Okay, so from perspective of information system, this communication represents a business process in which different steps, different activities or different tasks are performed. What are those tasks? What are those steps? The steps are sending message, receiving message, or in addition to any message, we also send and receive symbols. Okay, so as a whole, we can say that communication is an interpersonal business process of sending, receiving symbols with messages attached to that business process. Okay. Next, we will identify the main functions of communication. Okay. So, what main functions are performed by any communication? Okay. So, any communication serves four major functions. What are those four major functions? The first one is control. If this communication, if it is efficient, if it is effective, then it builds a control between sending and receiving the messages or symbols. This communication may also help to motivate the people working in an organization. So we will learn this control, motivation, and all these four functions in more detail. Here I am just trying to define each functions. And then emotional expression. Emotional expressions means with the help of a proper and effective communication, you can help your business professionals or participants to express their emotions effectively. And if they are able to express their emotions, then you can track their performance, you can track their physical health, you can track any disturbances acting in your organization, all those things. And this communication also serves a function by providing information which is required. So control means organizations have authority, hierarchies, and formal guidelines that employees are required to follow. So what kind of control is served by the communication? So a proper or effective communication will tell the participants or business professionals about the hierarchies and formal guidelines. Okay. So by using communication, you can serve this major function. What is this major function? That by using communication, you can help the participant to know the hierarchies and several guidelines that they need to follow. Okay. Motivation. This communication clarifies to employees what is to be done, how well they are doing, and what can be done to improve the performance. Okay, so if it is clear to if what they need to be done is clear to employees, then they will feel motivated. How? Suppose several employees are doing some work, but at the end they are finding that they spent so much time and they applied so much effort, but at last they found that they were means spending their time and applying effort in a wrong direction. They were doing work in the area which was not relevant to their jobs and responsibility. So with help of proper communication, you can help your employees to clarify their role and responsibility. Emotional expression. This communication provides a release for the emotional expression of feelings and for fulfillment of social needs. Okay. So with help of a proper communication, the employees can release their emotional expressions. Okay, and also they can fulfill their social needs. So suppose you have provided some kind of game or some kind of email platform where your employees can communicate with their colleagues for their social needs, then that communication will be helpful for them. Next is information. So communication facilitates decision making. I think this point is clear to everyone. And this communication provides information by transmitting the data to identify and evaluate choices. So apart from these informations, several informations are transformed from using the communication platform. So what is the process of communication? So in this diagram, the process of communication is described. Okay. So suppose any message is there that the sender wants to send to the receiver. Okay. So what the sender will do? Sender will read that message. Okay. Or sender will see that message, and then he will try to encode that message, and the receiver will receive that encoded message. What this encoding means? So this complete communication process we can understand with help of acting. Okay, acting. So what actors do? Actors, they read a script. Okay, so suppose this is a script. So actors need to send the script to their audience. Okay, so they will read the script, and they will encode that script through their acting. Okay, so here is the script, and they will uh, send this script to their audience using acting. Okay, so here is the audience. So this script may be a very uh, verbal method of information. That means every message is in a written form. So actor will read that script, and then he will act according to that script. So the audience will see that message in form of several modulation in the voice. Okay, several non-verbal form of information. Okay, then some music will be played behind that dialogue. Okay, so all those things are encoded. All these form of changing the script into some useful information is termed encoding. So actors encode that script, and then using some TV or something, that encoded message is sent to the audience. And depending on the depending on the mood of audience, okay, depending on several situations, depending on language of audience, depending on okay, depending on mood, and there are several things that affect the audience. So based on their emotions and all those things, this audience will encode the message, and he will understand that what this actor is presenting. Okay, that means suppose this actor is playing a role of some villain. Okay, but as per the mood of audience, that villain role may make this audience feel very good. Okay, and this actor may be playing a role of a very good person, but if audience mood is not good, then he will feel that this actor is not playing a very good role.
Yes, sir.
So it all depends on how this message is decoded. Okay, so receiver will receive the message, and he will decode the message according to his mood and several other factors. And this communication is two-way information processing. So whatever he received, that will be sent back to the sender through feedback. Okay. So receiver will feedback the uh, received message to the sender, and there exists some noise which affect the channel, and also this noise affect the feedback. So here we will study some basic concepts related to communication. So the first concept is social concept. Okay, and second I will discuss the concept of personal communication, impersonal communication, anonymous communication, and then the we will consider the factor of time, place, and direction of communication. So let's discuss these factors, these parameters, these concepts one by one in the further slides. So the first one is social concept. This social context. Social context denotes a relationship between sender and receiver. Okay, what kind of relationship? It describes a social relationship. That means a personal relationship, that how sender and receiver are uh, related to each other. Okay, so what relationship are covered in this social context? Let's see. The situation and relationship within which communication takes place. So the first one is social presence. So for example, suppose the sender is a very renowned actor. That means the acting is being done by Amitabh Bachchan. Then what will happen? The communication will be more effective. Okay, so the social presence of the sender, social presence of the sender affects the type of communication. So social presence of sender affects the communication. Okay, so if a communication is being done by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, then that communication will have a different impact. And if the same communication is being done by some lower politicians, so that communication will produce different impact on the society. Organizational position. Okay, so hierarchy also affects the communication. So suppose CEO of an organization address his employees, then that address will have a significant impact on his employees. But the same communication, if delivered by someone else, then the situation will be different. Then relationships. Okay, suppose uh, a teacher is communicating with his student, then the communication will be different. Suppose a brother communicates with his elder brother or sister, then the type of communication will be different. So relationship also matters uh, for any communication that is taking place. Then cultural norms. So there are many things that are prohibited in different cultures. So if you are talking about social context, then you should keep in mind some cultural norms that you need to follow in while communicating with someone. Age also matters. We often see that in YouTube, uh, age is asked. So whatever communication is available, or whatever communication is done on YouTube, that is affected by age. So if any YouTube user watches a video, but he is below age 18, then he will not be able to uh, explore all kind of videos. Okay, and suppose he is below certain age, suppose he is below 10 years age, then different kind of videos will be suggested for that viewer. Okay, different kind of recommended videos he will receive. Okay, so age matters in the communication. Then gender. Okay, suppose we are communicating with a female, then our communication will be somewhat different. And if we are communicating with a male, then we will see that the communication has been changed. The topic also affects the communication. Suppose we are talking on politics. Okay, the same thing, suppose the same thing is being talked with respect to some politics, and the same thing is talked with respect to some science, some research, then you will see that the communication has been changed, the communication style has been totally changed. So topic also affects. Then non-verbal communication. Okay, non-verbal communication also comes under the social context, and this social context relates the physical uh, physical quantities. Okay, physical appearance, physical quantities like age, gender, all those things. Then personal communication. So personal communications represents the relationship between sender and receiver matters. It affects form and content. Obviously, we already discussed the impact of personal communication. And let's take another example to understand this personal communication. We have seen that in many form, okay, in many Google form or in many employment form, we see certain sections where first of all you need to select that if you are associated with any politician or someone else, then you will get different kind of form. And if you are not related to the boss of company or any politician, then you will get different kind of content, different kind of content and different kind of form. Okay, so the content and form depends on the personal relationship between sender and receiver. Then impersonal communication. Impersonal communication means you are generating a form or a content which is independent on personal relationship. Okay, that means now this question will not be asked to provide the content to the user, that whether you are related with some, you are a relative of some politician, you are a relative of any officer of the system or not. Okay, so if that, in that way the content has been designed, then that communication will be called as impersonal communication. Then anonymous communication, that means you are sending some message to someone and the receiver cannot identify you. Okay, so if a sender's identity is hidden from the recipient, then that communication is called anonymous communication. So with help of IT, we can communicate with someone personally and impersonally. Okay, so information technology helps in making personal as well as impersonal or anonymous communication. If you are not using information technology, then you will develop person to person communication. Without any electronic medium, without any information technology, we will talk and we will communicate. So that may be a form of personal communication, or that talk will maybe a form of impersonal communication. That means if we talk to our boss and the boss is very professional, he don't mind any relationship, so it will be impersonal. And if we talk to our family or someone, then that will consider some personal communication. Next, let's discuss these factors like time, place, and direction of communication. So, if the sender and the receiver are available at the same time simultaneously, then that type of communication is called synchronous communication. And if the sender and the receiver are not available simultaneously, then that type of communication is called asynchronous communication. And we have to consider these parameters, that means synchronous and asynchronous, while building our information system. Because if you don't consider the whether the communication is synchronous or asynchronous, you cannot build effective, efficient, proper information system. Next, place. So place involves physical appearance or physical presence. So same place means the receiver and sender are available at same place. Direction means the communication may be in one way or it may be in two way. So if communication is being done in one way, then we will call the one way communication, or it will be called two way communication. So same place, same time. So we give presentation. Very often we give presentation when a receiver and sender are available at same place and at same time. So another example is copy and board. We write something and demonstrate someone uh, where both are at same place and at same time. PC projectors are used for this purpose. Facilitation services. If we take example of polling system, then also both are at same available at same place and at same time. Now if we take example of typical telephone, then uh, you can see that the receiver and the sender both are present at a different places but at the same time. Video telephone, here also the communication is done in real time, so both are available at same time, but they are present at different places. Then video conferencing. So now we are doing video conferencing, and we all are present at different places at our homes, and we are learning through Zoom, but we are learning at the same time. Live radio, TV broadcast. So if anything is broadcasted live on radio or TV, then receiver may be present at a different place, but he can see the things at same time. Then we use World Wide Web, okay, mini electronic mail, where the receiver and sender are present at different places, and at different time they can access the data. Many transaction databases are used at a different place and a different time, like pre-recorded radio or TV are broadcasted to people sitting at different places, and they can watch that program. So we saw that there were four classifications that we made according to place and time. So for same place, same time, there was one classification, then different place, same time, another classification, then for same place and different time, there was one classification, and for a different place and different time, there was another classification. Now we will see some approaches that are used for improving communication. The first approach that is very common is approach in which we eliminate unnecessary person-to-person communication. The second approach is, in this approach, we make communications more systematic. And in the third approach, we identify common barriers, and those common barriers are removed. And this removal of common barriers makes the communication effective. So the first approach, that is eliminate unnecessary person-to-person communication. So in this approach, the first way to eliminate the unnecessary person-to-person communication is by substituting online access to data. Okay. So by providing online access to data to your all participants as well as customers or users, you can eliminate unnecessary person-to-person communication. And by providing ATM access, we see that nowadays banking systems are using ATM more and more, and they are installing ATM at different places, very accessible to the customers, and it makes person-to-person communication very little. So then automated telephone attendance. Now nowadays we see that a IVR system is used in several companies, and what these IVR systems do, they welcome the customer and they ask to press several numbers corresponding to different departments of their organization. So for example, if any customer calls, then they will say press 1 for sales, press 2 for support, press 3 for billing. So in this way, using the automated telephone attendance, we can eliminate the person-to-person communication, and it will make the communication very effective. Then danger of becoming too impersonal. This elimination of person-to-person communication imposes a danger of becoming too impersonal. Here's the example, and in this example, you can see that while taking some snacks, some people are communicating with using some online platform, and that communication makes the uh, communication very impersonal. So that is a danger for using online person-to-person communication. Then making communication systematic. So if you make communication systematic, then also you can make the communication very effective. So if you want to make the communication systematic, then first way to make it systematic is give contrast to communication. Okay, so how we give contrast? So contrast can be given in many forms. One of the form is described here. So for example, suppose someone is communicating with someone, and he is changing the tone, and this change in tone changes the meaning actually. So suppose someone is saying, why don't I take you to dinner tonight? And if he give emphasis on you, then what it will mean, why don't I take you to the dinner tonight? That means he's asking that why you only, I can take someone else to the dinner. So this may mean that this uh, this person is saying that I was going to take someone else, or he's saying that I can take someone else for the dinner. Then if emphasis is given on, which one is bold? Okay, here I is bold. So he's saying, why don't I take you to dinner tonight? Instead, the guy you were going with can also take you to the dinner. So why me only take you to dinner tonight? You also can take me to dinner. So giving emphasis on I gives a different meaning. Then why don't I take you to dinner tonight? So if someone is giving emphasis on don't, so that means he's asking about the reason, like why don't I take you to dinner tonight? Then it may mean that I am trying to find a reason why don't. So that means a reason is being asked, that why I should not take you to dinner tonight. Then why don't I take you to dinner tonight? So if you give emphasis on why, that means I am denoting that what is the problem, that I can't take you to dinner tonight. So here I am talking about problem if I give emphasis on why. Similarly, if you change the emphasis on different words of a sentence, then that changing emphasis makes the definition makes the meaning different. Having structure reduces the effort required to figure out what the communication means. While making the communication systematic, if you increase the structure, then it will reduce the required effort to figure out the meaning. Okay, so if anything is being said, and if you increase the structure and then in the sentence, then this structure will reduce the effort to figure out that what is being said in the sentence. Okay, between groups of people, repetitive aspects of communication are systematized. Okay, so another way of making communication systematic is that whenever you repeat your some aspect of communication, then you repeat it systematically between different groups, and it will make the communication more effective. Barriers to effective communication. There are certain barriers that we need to identify and we need to remove for effective communication. So first one is filtering. What does filtering means? Suppose here is a person named Bill, and Bill want to say something, but he is unable to say the same thing which he is thinking. So he's thinking something else and saying something else because of filters. Okay, then there is some other filter that whatever is being said is perceived by a person differently. So Bill says actually something else, and John hears something else. Okay, and also John hears something but understand something different, and John wants to respond to the Bill, but whatever he is saying in response is coming to the Bill in a different way. So in this way filter works, and it makes the communication different between the sender and the receiver. Then selective perception. So suppose the sender and receiver are uh, from different community, and their perception about a certain topic is different. So whatever is being said by sender, the receiver will receive something different as per his perception, and whatever the receiver is giving feedback to the sender, that feedback will also be affected uh, due to the selective perception. Information overload. Okay, so suppose any sentence contains so many information, then that sentence will be a type of information overload. So any sentence or anything, if it is being said, then it should contain limited information in order to avoid the information overload. Then emotions play a very critical role in communication. So suppose the receiver is very hungry, then he will receive the communication in a different way. And if he is angry, then he will receive the same message in a different way. And so depending on the mood, the message will be received differently by the receiver, and also depending on the mood of sender, the message will be sent in a different way. The language also plays a very critical role in effective communication. So suppose something is being said by some sender in a certain language, and the pronunciation of the sender is not good, then what will happen? The receiver may receive something else. Okay, so the language also plays a critical role in the effective communication. Then communication apprehension. So if someone is fearful with the communication, then the communication may get affected. So communication apprehension is also a barrier for effective communication. So suppose we want to customize a jeans at Levi Strauss, and with help of this customizing jeans problem, we will try to understand the business process, products and services, customers, participants, information technology in a problem of effective communication. So suppose the problem is to make effective communication, and you want to study the situation with help of work system framework, then you can specify the different components of work system framework in this way. So for this particular problem of customizing jeans at Levi Strauss, the customer will be the person who is purchasing the jeans, and the product will be customized pair of jeans, measurements representing the best fit, manufacturing specification for the customized pair of jeans, and the business process will be taking measurements. So whatever verb is being used, or whatever actions are being used in the communication, they will come in the business process. So taking measurements, trying on social samples to get perfect fit, transmitting to factory in Tennessee, manufacturing jeans, mailing jeans to customer, uh, storing specification in the records. Okay, so all these are steps in the business process to define the problem of effective communication. Then participants are customer and salesperson, and information that we are using in the communication are customers, measurements, manufacturing specifications, delivery address. Technology, what technology we are using? So in the problem, we will discuss about the technology for sample pairs for fitting to customer, technology for producing the jeans, computers and data communication network. So all this technology will be considered while defining the problem of effective communication. Then we will talk about decision making. So what we mean by decision making? So decision making is the act. It is some kind of process consisting of some action, and we in the decision making we talk about the action of making up mind of decision maker, okay, about something on a position or opinion or judgment reached after consideration. Now, basic decision making concepts. So, what steps we follow in decision making process? So, whole steps can be divided into two major steps. The first step is problem finding, and the second step is problem solving. So, problem finding step is very important. We have listened a saying that often resources are spent finding good solutions to the wrong problem. So if we have not identified the problem, we have not found the problem appropriately, then we may find a solution to a wrong problem. So we have to remember this saying while making decision. Okay, then problem solving. So in problem solving, the most effective method is to use both rational as well as intuitive approaches. So if you want to make decisions effectively, if you want to solve the problem effectively, then you have to use rational as well as intuitive approaches. What we mean by rational approach? So let's consider the brain, human brain. So our left brain makes rational decision. So it analyzes the rational uh, aspects, and our right brain analyzes the intuitive approach, intuitive aspects of any problem, and according to that it gives decision. So if you are just accepting the analysis of your left brain, then it will not give you proper decision. Okay, so we have to make use of both rational as well as intuitive aspects of the problem. What comes in the rational approach? In rational approach, we focus on analytics. We focus on the linearity, hierarchy, and we consider several verbal writings. Okay, and it is object based. We study the detailed case, and we analyze the structure, and this rational approach is the approach is very concrete. So it follows a well-defined process. And if we consider the intuitive approach, then it's very synthetic, non-linear, and processes are not very clear, and we mainly focus on the visual, that means non-verbal things, and we are least rational, and we overlook many things, and several other things are there which comes under the intuitive approach. So in the previous slide we discussed that the decision making process consists of two steps. One is problem finding and the other one is problem solving. So problem solving step can further be divided into four phases. The first phase is intelligence, then design, then choice, then the fourth phase is implementation. So all these four phases of problem solving and problem finding works in a sequence. And first of all, we gather or we collect the data, either internal or external, and based on this data we analyze, we formulate, we find the problem. So for problem finding, we know that we can use work system framework, and this work system framework method of problem finding can give you the detail about the environment. So you can scan the environment, it can identify the problems that you need to solve. And for solving the problem, we follow the four phases of problem solving. So the first phase is intelligence, and in this intelligence we collect and analyze data about the problem, and then we design different criteria, different alternatives. Okay, and then all alternatives based on the criteria are evaluated to find the outcomes. And once we evaluated all the criteria and alternatives, we select the best alternative under the different criteria. So based on the different alternatives, we select the preferred alternative. Okay, and then we implement and inform others about the decision, put the decision into effect, and as a end product, we get the results of any decision making process. So this decision making process typically is a iterative process, and once we got the result, we again iterate this whole process and we make a loop. So there are some factors that affect the decision making. So what are some factors like perception, priority, acceptability, demands, style, resources, and judgment? Okay. So the first factor, perception. So just based on the perception, we should not give any decision. Okay. Uh, it's okay that you make some perception, but it is important to know the subject very well before making any decision. Then priority, you should know what are your priority, and based on your priority you should make decision. For example, suppose you want to go to lecture, and at the same time you have some interview, you have some other very important task, so you can give priority to that task and you can leave the lecture. So we know the priority, and based on the priority we should take the decision. So without knowing what you want, there cannot be any decision made about. Okay, acceptability. Okay, accept whether it's hard or easy if you think your decision is correct. So if your decision is convincing to you, if you are convinced that your decision is correct, then whatever is the decision, you accept it, whether it's hard or easy. Then demands, your decision should not be a decision that hurt someone. Okay, so make sure that no one gets hurt by your decision. Then resources, suppose you don't have much resources, then you should not wait that let the resources strengthen and then you will make decision. So whatever resources are available, based on the resources you should make decision. So resources sometimes makes a hurdle in decision making. So make your way with what is available. Don't ask for more. Don't ask or wait for more in the reason of scarcity. Judgment. Go on with the correct decision. So once you made the decision, implement that decision and produce the result. So this decision making is not about making some order to your participants. Okay, so suppose you made some decision, that doesn't mean that you just pass the order to your subordinates. Okay, decision making means giving a proper plan. Okay, organizing the different tasks. Okay, leading the process and controlling the process. Okay, so these are four functions that a decision maker should follow. So we will study these four functions one by one. So the first function, planning. So planning is an art and science. Okay. So in this planning, you have to use some science, as well as you should understand the art, how this planning should be done. and this art comes from the experience, and this science comes from your several techniques. Okay, and this planning converts a set of objectives. Okay, so what do we mean by planning? Planning means, so once you set your objectives, then you propose some steps, a series of steps that you need to execute. Okay, in your organization in an organized and a predicted way, so that these set of objectives can be realized. Okay, to realize that objectives, you need to follow a proposed series of steps in an organized and predicted way, so that there will be less requirement of changes in the plan later on. So you should propose the series of steps in a way that later on you should not change your plan. Okay. The old saying is, plan the work, work the plan. Okay. Then organizing is the process of creating a structure of relationship to enable employees to carry out management's plans and achieve their goal. So once planning is completed, then you develop a set of instructions, series of steps that your participants need to follow in order to execute the plan appropriately. So organizing is the process of creating series of steps or structure of relationship. Okay, to enable your participants or employees to carry out management's plan and achieve their goals. Organizing involves establishing an intentional structure of roles for people to fill in an organization. Okay, so the basic purpose of organizing is the making or establishing an intentional structure. Okay, if we remember that we had divided the whole managers in an organization into three parts. The first one was DSS, the second one was MIS. So first one was decision support system, then management information system, and then transaction processing system. So this transaction processing system requires a detailed structure. Okay, so how we get the detailed structure in TPS? Just by a proper planning. So this is the objective of planning, to establish a intentional structure. Then the fourth function of decision making was leading. So what we mean by leading? Leading involves the social and informal sources of influence that you use to inspire actions taken by others. So leader is a source of influence, isn't it? Leader is a source of influence, either social or informal. How a leader influences? A leader influences us in a way that makes us inspire to take actions. Okay, and this leading guides and motivates employees to make effectively to accomplish organizational goals and objectives. And the leading explains the routines, clarifies the policies, and provide a feedback on performances. Then comes the controlling phase, and in the controlling phase, we undertake this controlling phase is undertaken during the actual project implementation, and this controlling phase develops a mechanism, okay, that determines the deviation. Okay, so first objective of controlling is to determine the deviation. Okay, so what is your plan and how the organization actually working? This deviation is determined by control phase, and once any deviation occurs, then this deviation is compensated. The other task of controlling phase is to compensate the deviations. Compensate the deviations on the basis of commissioning minima, flow of resources like finance, flow of manpower, using equipment and application techniques properly. So by using these things of an organization, you can compensate the deviations between planned uh, steps and the actual steps that are being followed in the process. Then common flaws in decision making. So some common flaws are poor framing. Okay, so suppose you have a glass and the glass is filled with half water. Okay, so this half full means some positive information. Okay, that means your glass is half full. That means you may get relaxed. And if you are being said that your glass is half empty, then you may get panic and so your decision will get affected. Okay, so a poor framing affects the decision making, so it's a common flaw. Then overconfidence, that you are not well aware about your capabilities. Okay, you are overconfident about the knowledge and experience you acquire. So this overconfidence means too certain about uncertainties. So suppose there are some uncertainty, but you are very confident about the knowledge and experience that you possess, so it affects the decision making. Then another common flaw is association bias. This common flaw is very important. It means that if you have a certain skill, then you see all problems from that point of view. Okay, so suppose you are mechanical engineer, so in the organization you will see all problems from the viewpoint of mechanical engineering. There is a saying that to the man with a hammer everything looks like a nail. Okay, so then another common flaw is group think, power in numbers. So suppose you are making decision based on a group thinking, then what will happen? Let's understand this common flaw with this example. So suppose there is a person and he is writing something. So he is asking from his colleague or some persons that how this for a start. Okay, so he's writing the the. Okay, and some person is saying it might offend people named Theodore. Okay, and the other person is saying that's a loaded word. Okay, the other person is saying it's overused if you ask me, and the other person is saying this is not Shakespeare, let's use words we all understand. Okay, so in this way the decision is affected if you make decision using a group think. In decision making is recency effects, and it means that the last word of an information affects the decision. Okay, so for example, uh, in a organization achieved a average return of certain value in past 5 years. Okay, but in the past 12 months the return was negative, and this reduced in the average return made him to question that should I continue investing. Okay. So this last word, this last information affects the decision. So this effect, this flaw, this bias is called recency bias or recency effect. Then there is a escalation phenomena. Okay, and what is escalation phenomena? Phenomena means escalation phenomena means ignoring sunk cost. Okay, so suppose there is a person and he was in loss. Okay, and before that loss he spent so much money and so much effort and so much time in a process. So if after spending so much time, so much effort and so much time he get lost, then definitely he will think that why I should need to stop the process, or why I need to stop the I need to change the process at the time when I have already spent so much in that process. So whatever time, money, or effort you have spent in something, that time, effort, or money cannot be recovered. So you should think about changing your process or stopping the process, even if you have spent so much into that process. Thank you so much for your kind attention.